Hello, my dear students. This is our final lecture. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I did receive a number of tweets from my students, and thank you so much for encouraging me. And you've not only seen, or you've not only heard from me, and not only have I taught you, but very possibly you followed some of the prophetic things that have taken place, the prophecies that I've had to share, the difficult ones, the better ones, the easier ones. I don't think there's ever an easy prophecy. But you've been there with me. You've heard me teaching from the matrix, giving the prophetic utterances from the den. And so you've possibly seen a lot of what you've been taught in action. This has been a journey regarding your destiny. And so at the end of this lecture today, we're going to worship together, stand around the piano, and I'm going to impart upon you what is in me spiritually by doing it with the mantle. But before we do that, let me conclude, because we've learned so much. And just to tell you that I love you very much. As I said before, you are an extension of me. And thank you for believing in me and for praying for me and my family and my team. They've been awesome. The team that have handled the school, they've done very well. And it's sort of sad to think this is the last lecture, but there are more to come. Let's talk about the mystery. Because as you journey on your destiny, things unfold. And I think the most important thing I'm going to teach you today, and here we are, by the way, it's still the school. It's just that I'm very comfortable at the den setting right now because I'm going to be praying for you in a few minutes, possibly next 30 minutes or so. But the mystery unfolds as you journey. You cannot see more unless you progress. You go ahead, you progress, you walk. Because if you don't step forward and continue, the mystery will not unfold. So what I'm saying is, a lot of people stand still and say, well, if I don't get any answers from God, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to walk by faith. Well, first of all, understand that you walk by faith and not by sight. That's a very important thing to understand on your journey. Because faith pleases God. Without faith, it's impossible to please Him. So I'm going to share these things with you and I know you've learned a lot about that, but the faith that I'm talking about is the faith that has no sight. Kim, what are you talking about? Well, you live in darkness. Now, when I say darkness, it means you don't know everything. You know in part. And so it's what we call a dark place, not as in sin, but a dark place as in something that is hidden from you and you want to get it so badly, but you cannot get it because God can only reveal it as you further on in your journey, as I taught before about the hunting and the fact that sometimes your prey can be just around a little hill. And if you stay in one place, you won't know it's right there. You have to move a little bit and suddenly you see it. So everybody has something inside of them that is hidden, that is yet to be revealed. Even myself, after 30 so many years of ministry and this time of the fast that I'm on and praying, I'm learning things about myself all the time. I'm learning, and you know why? It's because He tells me, I want you to do this now. So I obey. And in my obedience, I'm progressing. Disobedience is a degree. You're going to go backwards with disobedience. Obedience pushes you forward. So you may ask me and say, well, Kim, how do I keep going? By being obedient, because God is going to lead you by His Spirit. And if He leads you by His Spirit, it means that He's going to lead you to the next place where that darkness becomes light and the night becomes sight, because you will see something you never saw before. But you have to be obedient to God. He told me to go on a fast. He said to me, I want you to go on an 18-month fast. And I said, what did you say? 18 months? I can't stay without food for 18 months. He said, you're going to stay without a lot of food for 18 months, and you're going to hear things that you never heard before. So he put me on a partial fast. And while on this fast, my obedience pushed me to a greater place. So the importance of obeying. Every time Abraham obeyed, he saw more. God said, I'll show you. Showing means that you don't know until He shows. And so He shows you as you go along your journey. You're not going to change this. I'm sorry to tell you. You cannot know everything at once. And I'm going to give this teaching to you today as a warning that when you get frustrated because it's not quite happening, Remember, there's a voice telling you to do something. If you obey that voice, you're acting by faith, more will unfold to you. Okay? So, there's a mystery inside of every one of you. What is that? Mysterion, which means to be veiled. There's a revelation in every one of you. The revelation is to unfold it. Apocalypto is the Greek word. To lift, to remove the veil. So the two work together. You have a mystery. What is the mystery? It will unfold. The mystery is who you are and what you're supposed to do. And until you have a revelation, that mystery remains in a dark place and you get frustrated. God reveals, Kim, go and fast for 18 months. I start praying 3 times a day. I pray. And in those times, I have been experiencing the most wonderful revelations from God, manifestations from Him as well. And in that time, He shows me more. And so I realize now the only way that I'm going to know what's inside of me or to unfold the mystery is by obeying Him when He reveals Himself and says that I should do something absurd. Okay? Now, let's move on. The word in you must be expressed. So, you can't know everything, otherwise you lose hope. That's right. All of you got it right. You can't know everything about your journey, otherwise you lose hope. What keeps you alive is hope. So, if hope is taken away from you, you won't stay alive. So God keeps you in a state of hoping for more. If He told you everything, what is there to hope for? Now, don't forget that I've taught you that you have a weapon that you can use against the powers of darkness. In 1 Timothy 1 verse 18, as you know I've read, he says to Timothy, and I want you to read that with me in 1 Timothy 1 verse 18, he says, "This charge I commit to you, son Timothy, according to the prophecies previously made concerning you." The prophecies that were given to you, use them to wage a good warfare. Not a bad one, a good warfare. But then he goes on to say, and this is the part that you've got to also understand, you can use your prophetic word, what God told you, as a weapon to wage a good warfare. But verse 19, and I'll teach this to you, which I haven't taught anybody else, having faith and a good conscience. So what he's saying is, he's saying, look, you can use the gift or the word that God has prophesied over you. When the enemy rises up against you, say, no, God said, but He says you have to have faith with that. Now, what is faith? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. So, the substance of things hoped for. There is a substance in hope. There is evidence that comes out of hope of things that you don't see. Got it? So, faith is. It's all now. You know, it's all inside of you now. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. You got to have hope with faith. What is hope? I hope this happens. God gives you a word so that you can have hope. So, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence. He's saying that you have evidence in the word. Faith is the evidence. The evidence of things not yet seen, or the evidence of things unseen. You cannot see it, but it's evident. Let's just say you were in this room and all the lights went out. You know by walking in the darkness and possibly feeling around that there is a pen here. You're not sure what the pen's color is. You don't know what kind of pen it is. You don't know what model it is, but you know it's a pen. You say, I'm frustrated. I need to know what color it is. I need to know what kind of pen it is. Hold on. The light's going to come on and you're going to see it all, but you're hoping that you'll see it. So what happens is you have evidence while in an unseen place where you cannot see clearly. You know it's there. You felt it. It's evident, but it's not yet seen. Now, that's what I'd call hope keeping you alive. God cannot show you everything because He knows hope will keep you alive. Okay, Psalm 119 verse 49 to 50 says this. And by the way, he also says a clear conscience, faith and a clear conscience. In Psalm 119, David says these words. He prays to God and says, remember the word to your servant. God, don't forget the word that you spoke to me, upon which you have caused me to hope. Upon which you have caused me to hope. In other words, David is staying alive because God gave him a word that causes him to hope. The word hasn't come to pass, so hope is keeping him alive. This is my comfort in my affliction, he says, that I have a sure word of prophecy that you gave to me, and it's causing me to hope, and this is my comfort in my affliction, for your word has given me life. Now, Romans 8 verse 24. Let's go there. Romans chapter 8 verse 24. I want to read this to you because it's very important that you don't get frustrated when you don't know what to do next, because he will lead you by the Spirit. Okay. Verse 24 of Romans chapter 8. And I'm just going to read this to you from the screen here, because it's better for me to do that right now. And then I'll read you a few scriptures from the Bible here that is in front of me. For we are saved in this hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. What are you saying, Kim? When you see something, you no longer need hope. In other words, if let's say you've been hoping for, a breakthrough, and suddenly it happens, whatever the area it is, and now you see it and it's evident in front of you, then you don't need to hope for that anymore, do you? Let's say you're believing for $200 because you need to pay a bill or something, and you're hoping. You're in a state of hope. I want this to come, Lord. I need this, and I really believe you're going to give it to me. You're in a state of hope. If somebody walks over to you and says, God told me to give you $200. Just listen to me for a minute. Simple little illustration, but listen. Suddenly you don't need hope because you got it. So what happens? God creates something else so you can carry on hoping. It's an incredibly fascinating place to be. So we are saved in this hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. It has to be in a dark place. For why does one still hope for what he sees? You don't have to hope anymore. For if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly await for it with perseverance. Write that down. We wait for it with perseverance. So, if we hope for what we do not see, what do? We can't see it. God, it's going to happen anytime. So what do? We persevere because we're hoping. It's beautiful. So likewise, the Spirit also helps us in our weaknesses. For we do not know what we should pray for as we ought. Why? Because I'm not sure. So the Spirit himself makes intercession for us, with groanings which cannot be uttered. That happened to me this morning. I was carried into the future and I suddenly saw something. So let's go to verse 27. Now he who searches the hearts knows what the mind of the Spirit is, because he makes intercession for the saints according to the will of God. So what's happening is he's praying for you. Verse 28, as we know that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord. Is that it? No. Loving God is great, but it's not enough for things to work together for good. He says, let's get it in context. All things work together for good to those who love God. A lot of people love God, and all things are not working together for good. He says, who love God, and to those who are called according to his purpose. Now, another translation says that are walking according to the calling of his purpose. So in other words, if you are walking in your call and according to his purpose, even though you haven't got there yet, even though you haven't arrived, all things will work together for good for you. So how does God get our attention? These things are very important to understand. How does God get our attention? I'm going to give you a fascinating little 15-minute lecture here, and then we're going to release you. How does God get our attention? How does God speak to us? How do prophets speak? Let me teach you how God speaks. Now, I may not be perfect, but I have heard his voice on many occasions. I've made a few mistakes in my life. Who hasn't? And I'm encouraging you, especially those that are scared and afraid. And I want to address this. There are many prophets that will not take a step out of the boat. They like to stay in a safety zone because they don't want to be stoned. And it's amazing how people want to stone prophets when they make one little mistake, and they'll call them a false prophet instead of a wrong prophet. It's funny, the evangelist can be wrong, the teacher could be wrong, the apostle can be wrong, but when the prophet's wrong, we jump from New Testament straight into Old and say, get the stones out, let's stone him. I want to be an example to you. I want to be an example to your children, that they can step out of the boat, and if they make a mistake, they learn their lesson. Instead of a whole generation coming up saying, well, there's so many prophets that they don't take a chance because they think they're going to lose their reputation. I'm not talking about false prophets here, dear friends. I'm talking about wrong prophets. I want to be an example, and I'm sure there are many other prophets in the land that want to be an example. To prophesy outside of the boat, to take a chance. Well, what if you're wrong? Then what if I'm right? I don't like that kind of mentality, that fear in people where they say, well, what happens if you prophesy and it doesn't happen? Well, then I was wrong. But in the meantime, what I hear, I'm going to say. And God is, during your time of lecture or the term of schooling, I have prophesied some of the most ridiculous things and been scoffed and laughed at, and yet the next week we saw it unfolding in the news. Prophesied that there would be something around Saturn in the ring, and when I did that, I thought, God, what are you telling me? I mean, are you telling me there's some type of energy in the universe? And he said, absolutely. So I said, do you realize I'm going to get persecuted for this? And it's like, I can see there's a little smile on his face saying, your brothers, the prophets of yesterday, went through the same thing. Why should you be excluded? To prophesy out of the boat, stick your head out. Yes, you may be slammed, you may be criticized, you may be laughed at, but you know what? It's worth the risk, and I want a generation to be raised up that aren't safe prophets. I want you to be risky, revolutionary, and dangerous. And I want the enemy to know that when they hear something and it's a secret of God, they're going to step out and they're going to do it. Well, that'll make them false prophets. Who told you that? Some idiot on the radio that tells you and misquotes and tries to trap? Yes, you will make mistakes. Prophets that are being raised right now, you are in the school of the prophet. You speak destiny. You won't understand everything. We prophesy in part. We don't know everything. You will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. And Big Daddy up there won't bonk you on the head. He's not going to try and destroy you. He won't knock you on the head and hurt you. Your brothers may hurt you. But what I'm telling you this now because you understand that you will make mistakes and you won't be a false prophet because you didn't maliciously plan this. If you made a mistake, you could be a wrong prophet and to be corrected. I stand to be corrected when I've made mistakes. Why do you think all my prophecies are public? Why do you think I put them out there? So that people can see them. And so be encouraged. And if there is something I said wrong, I don't pull it out. I'll say, well, then let's try and work out what God was saying. How do we get people's attention? How do we keep their attention? How do we get people to stick with us through a more complex message? Now, when we're dealing with God, we're dealing with a complex message. That's the complex message. And we've got to understand how He keeps people's attention. How do we keep people's attention? Now, a few years ago, Robert Cialdini, a social psychologist at Arizona State University, set out to improve the way he talked about science, a complex subject matter, in his writing and in his classes. He wanted to improve it. So, for inspiration, he went into the library and he pulled down every book that he could find in which scientists were writing for an audience of non-scientists. That's what the key was. Scientists were writing for an audience of non-scientists, so he photocopied sections of prose that he liked. Later, flipping through his stack of copied messages, he hunted for what? Consistencies. In passages that weren't interesting, he found mostly what he expected. Now, let's say that again so you understand. In passages that weren't interesting, this is the issue. It's easy to be uninteresting. It's easy to be uninteresting and cause disinterest in people. What makes God interesting, and I'll share with you why, what makes Him interesting and why it is important to gain the interest of people. So in passages that weren't interesting, he found mostly what he expected. The purpose wasn't clear. So when God speaks, the purpose is always clear. And the prose were too formal and riddled with jargon. He also found a lot of predictable virtues in good passages. Did you hear what I just said? He found a lot of predictable virtues in good passages. The structure was clear, the examples vivid, and the language fluid. Okay, but, says Caldini, I also found something I'd not expected. The most successful, and I want all of you students to listen to me now, the most successful of these pieces all began with a mystery story. And that's what he discovered. The interesting stories were started with a mystery and caught the people's attention. That's God. The authors described a state of affairs that seemed to make no sense and then invited the reader into the material as a way of solving the mystery. Think about it as you solving the mystery. Mysteries are powerful, folks. Mysteries are powerful. God does it that way. That's how I've got to know Him. I wish I knew more. And sometimes I want to strangle somebody because I don't know anymore. And I've learned not to second guess. And I've learned not to try and interpret. If I don't know, I shut up. Now, I'm being very strong about this because I've had people criticize me and say, well, why don't you tell us more? Because I don't know. Do you want me to make up something? Now, I'm going to teach you something very interesting here because about the knowledge gap. Mysteries are powerful. What do? They create a need for closure. So it keeps you alive. I don't know it, and I want to create closure. So what does God do? He keeps our attention with mysteries. Take some notes here. Mysteries exist wherever there are questions without obvious answers. I'm going to repeat that. You may want to write this down. Mysteries exist wherever there are questions without obvious answers. Does that sound familiar to you? I'm leaning forward because I want to look right at you. It's the closest I can get to you. And you don't go close up on the camera either. What mysteries exist wherever there are questions without obvious answers. Where there is an obvious answer, the mystery, the mystique is out of it. Oh, God tells us everything. You show me one instant in the Bible where He told everything. And they were all frustrated. And went to Him and said, God. And so the mystique, the mysterious aspect of it is always there. I love it. Yes, I get frustrated at times. But mysteries exist wherever there are questions without obvious answers. Now, mystery is created not from an unexpected moment, but from an unexpected journey. Mystery is created not from an unexpected moment, but from an unexpected journey. The whole journey that you're going on is going to have mysteries, and you are going to be the problem solver. You are the mystery solver. So, we know where we're headed. We want to solve the mystery, but we're not sure how we'll get there. You know what? Curiosity is the intellectual need to answer questions and close open patterns. I'm speaking a bit slower today because what I'm giving you is a nugget I've given nobody. I put this together, compiled this so that you could understand how God speaks to you. And for once, let us get a clear understanding that when He speaks, mysteries will pop up and then there will be some answers as well. Curiosity, keep it alive. The devil wants you to live in a predictable state so you can be religious. He wants predictability, and God wants curiosity. And so the whole world is talking about God. He's this, and He doesn't do that, and they're blaming Him for this. And curiosity is all over the earth. Why? Because God ain't telling you everything. And it's driving them mad. And they're saying, why? Because that's His privilege. And that's how He knows you'll keep alive. Oh, but Kim, people don't believe in God because He doesn't show Himself. Doesn't He? I promise you, every person on the face of this earth will have a confrontation with God where they know that they know that they know there is a God. I give you my word. I don't care what they shout from the rooftops. I don't care what the atheists and the agnostics say. I don't care what they say. I tell you, every being will have that one moment, that theophany, that they'll say, there is a God. They may hide it. They may sham. They may say, I'll never tell it. They know it. Because curiosity is the intellectual need to answer questions and close open patterns. In God's communication with us, He creates a scene which hooks curiosity so that you'll wonder what will happen next and how it will turn out. He wants curiosity so that you'll wonder what will happen next and how it will turn out. In God's communication, He creates a scene which hooks curiosity so that you wonder what will happen next, how it will turn out. What will happen next in your life? How will it turn out is what's in your heart. We want to answer these questions, and that desire keeps us interested. Students, are you getting it? I pray that you do, because to have a predictable journey will not keep your interest. To have a predictable journey will not keep your interest. You will be disinterested and lose you will absolutely get bored out of your mind. As much as our intellect is demanding that we know what takes place next, we want to know. God says, I won't tell you because I know what it'll do to you if I did. And I know what it does to you when I don't. And when I don't, you get curious and you stay in a state of hope, even though you may despise it. And when you get there, you say, oh my gosh, what you expected is not what He created. Write that down. What you expected is not what He created. So you are always kept in a state of hope. Now there are three things: faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love, of course. Love inspires faith. Love inspires hope. What you expect will not keep your attention. Shall I say that again? What you expect will not keep your attention. Curiosity is the key to drawing you closer to Him and into your destiny. I'll say that again. I am repeating myself so that you can get these statements I've written down. Curiosity is the key to drawing you closer to Him and into your destiny. Come on. Curiosity drew Moses to the burning bush. And I can go on and on and on. Christ Himself on the earth kept him in a state, not of predictability, but pushing them to the edge. Lord, don't you understand? We are great fishermen. We have fished all night long and caught nothing. Jesus says the unpredictable. Go back, cast your nets out into the deep. Lord, we know this. We're very industrious. We understand our skill, but nevertheless, at your word, we'll do it. And they go into the deep, the same lake that apparently had no fish to catch. Suddenly at that very moment, there's such a catch so great that their nets begin to break and their boats begin to sink, and they have to give the fish to other boats in case they lose it. Simon Peter falls on his face and said, Lord, get away from me. I'm a sinful man. Oh? Do you think that if Jesus said something predictable like, don't worry, boys, we'll just go wait for the right time and God will help us tomorrow? No. Do you think Simon Peter would have fell on his face? No. He entered into the realm of the unknown, the unpredictable, and that's the glory of this journey. He fell on his face and said, get away from me, God. I'm a sinful man. Strange thing to say. But he didn't even feel that he owed it. No, my dear friend. What happened was the mystery, the fact that he was predictable, knew what he was talking about, took a chance and said, okay, we're going to take you at your word. And suddenly this whole thing, it's just filled up his whole life. I can go on and on and on. You know, talk about the fish that has a silver coin in its mouth. Peter, the same old guy, saying to him, Mr. Predictable is saying, hey, he says, we need to pay our taxes. What should we do? Jesus says, go and put your net out in the sea and catch a fish. The first one you get, you'll find a silver coin in its mouth. Go and pay the taxes. See, Simon Peter does it, and there it is again. Non-predictable. Jesus heals some. He spits on the ground. They all get furious with him. That's not the way that we do it. Jesus tells him, you are all a bunch of predictable people. And I'm showing you that God can do things the way you never expected them to be done. Curiosity is the key to drawing you closer to Him and into your destiny. And I told you this. Curiosity drew Moses to the burning bush. You think he would never have turned had there not been a burning bush? You know what I call them? God teasers. The teaser. A teaser is powerful because it teases you with something that you don't know. In fact, something that you didn't care about until you found out that you didn't know it. All crazy stuff, eh? And it's called God. God all the way. Big old God sitting there working it intricately out just so that you can be kept fascinated. Well, the people in the world are not like that. They're in a mess. And that's why for us to go to a world that is in such a mess with predictability and in-the-box Christianity is boring. And that's what you are going to change. You are going to change that from this day onwards. I release that upon you because from this day onwards, you are not on a predictable journey and you must not expect anything predictable. I'm talking about spiritually with God. Okay. A teaser is powerful because it teases you with something that you don't know. In fact, something you didn't care about until you found out that you didn't know it. So you say, oh, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I know that? Because you don't know it all. I want to speak to you about one more thing before I release you. It's called situational interest. What is situational interest? Okay. What features of a situation spark and elevate interest? What features of a situation that you're in spark and elevate interest? What makes your situation, or what makes situations interesting? George Levenstein, a behavioral economist at Carnegie Mellon University, is something I read up, gives the most comprehensive account for situational interest, and it's surprisingly simple. You may not understand everything I'm saying now, and it's a little bit on the sort of the intellect side, but I think it's necessary because we've had a lot of great spiritual moments, and you need to have this. It's very, very simple. I want to say that to you again. This behavioral economist gives the most comprehensive, we have to now comprehend, account for situational interest, and it's very simple. Curiosity happens when we feel a gap in our knowledge. Stop right there. Human beings are really strange. They think they know it all until prophets come along. Punch a gap in their knowledge. Now you don't know it all. Oh, I'll find out. That's what I wanted. That's what Jesus did. Told parables that were going, what's he saying? What does he mean? Punching a gap in your knowledge, baby. Why is he doing that? Because we think we know it all. I know how. No, you don't. And most religious spirits are exactly like, they know it alls. So what happens is God wants curiosity to happen. Oh, you're not so curious anymore because everything's going so punches a gap in your knowledge. Suddenly you're saying, I have to fill this gap so I need to know. And people go crazy. I got to know. You know, when I taught on invisible motion, people went crazy. New age and yeah. That's also so predictable. I'm sick of that. We make God so in a box. God, let me tell you, God, this is the way you're going to do it. Oh, really? Just watch me now. God refuses to be put into a box, and we do it all the time. The most brilliant theologians do it. This is how it is, and it's not going to change because the Word says so. That's right. But God creates situations that are similar to those in the Word, and you'll find out that you cannot simply go and say, well, the Word's on the Word. God, you'll find it in the Word if it's from God, I promise you, because that's what I base everything on. Invisible motion, when I taught about that, it created interest. One guy called, my dear friend Johnny Caswell was here with me, and his friend got on and said, this is creepy. I'm alone here, and what's this, this invisible motion stuff he's talking about? What did it do to that man? I don't know it all. And I've been told something that it's making me uncomfortable. Why? Why is it making you uncomfortable? Because there's a gap in your knowledge and it sparked curiosity. God speaks that way. He will not feed, listen to me, He will not feed you. He will not feed you what you want to hear. And people get angry sometimes when I prophesy and say something they don't want to hear. Saul was looking for his father's donkeys when he got to Samuel. Samuel ignored what was a predictable word and said, "You are the king of Israel." What he did was he punched a gap, made a hole in his knowledge and said, "You the king of Israel." So what are you talking about? I didn't think of this stuff. That's right. You didn't think of it. Because I'm not here to feed what you want, tell you where your father's donkeys are. I will give you destiny. I will tell you what your destiny is, and your father's donkeys will be found because you embrace destiny. That's the power of what you've learned. You are embracing destiny, and all your other situations will come to pass and they'll be solved. But if you take your eyes off the long term, remember what I taught you, and you take your eye off your destiny, if you don't know what it is, God will give it to you. And once you've got it, hold tight to it. Hold to it. Hold tight to your destiny. And your father's donkeys will be found. Your losses will be profits. Your pain will be gain. I'm telling you all of this because the gap in the knowledge is the key to pulling an intellectual person to their humble state that they need to be in. And you know what? Prophets do that. The prophets do that. And I want you to do it. I want you to remember something in future. Don't make up stuff. When you think something just don't work out, don't say, "I'm ignoring it." If it's got you and you're curious, it's because you've got a gap in your knowledge. Now a gap, let me just say this to you. A gap can cause pain. A gap can cause pain. When we want to know something but we don't, it's like having an itch that we cannot scratch. I can't get it. I've got them all here, by the way. Look. So, we got an itch. Can't get there. It's driving me mad. That's what a gap is. It causes, when we want to know something, it causes pain. Pain is not all that bad. I'm not talking about physical pain. Pain is not all that bad, folks. Listen to me, students. It's not all that bad. The pain I'm talking about is the pain of not knowing. I don't know. So what's it doing? It's the itch that you cannot scratch. We want to know. We want to know. We want to know. To take away the pain, what do we need to do? Fill the knowledge gap. Fill the knowledge gap to take away the pain or stay in pain. And human beings want to fill the knowledge gap because they want to know. It's who you are. God knows the questions that you're going to ask, and He has the answers to fill the gap. He knows the questions that you're going to ask, and by the way, He has the answers to fill the gap. People who are know-it-alls don't like to be dealt with in this manner. My answer to you is too bad. It's the way God is. Accept it. He happens to be the creator of the universe. I don't think He's going to change that now because He created you and He knows how you work. If curiosity arises from knowledge gaps, we should assume that when we know more, we'd become less curious because there are fewer gaps in our knowledge. But the opposite is true. You see, as we gain information, we are more than likely to focus on what we don't know. As we gain information, we are more than likely to focus on what we don't know. Hold on, Kim, are you saying when we know something, we don't focus on it as much? That's right. I gave a teaching from the Matrix, where Paul prays and he says, I pray for at the church at Ephesus that the eyes of your understanding may be enlightened. Hold on. What you already know must be enlightened. Because man gets bored when he has information that he's used to. He's gained the information, and so we think we'll concentrate on what we know, but we don't. We concentrate on what we don't know. Now, let me conclude this because I want you to pray with all of you first. I'll give you a good example of this. Someone who knows the state capitals of 18 of the 50 states may be proud of her knowledge. And I know this because I learned the States when I became an American citizen, and I knew them. And we were testing each other in the house. And, someone who knows the state capitals of 18 of the 50 states may be proud of her knowledge, but someone who knows 48 may be more than likely to think of herself as not knowing two capitals. That's right. Won't focus on what they know, they'll focus on what they don't know. That's the key. So what creates insight? Pieces of the puzzle are revealed to you as you journey. That is the conclusion of my lecture. Now, I know that you have no more questions. I know you know that curiosity killed the cat, but a cat has 9 lives. So I don't mind you being curious. Listen to me. I think you understand today that it is very exciting to journey with God. And once you've seen this lecture, and the final one is played, which is today, and you may some of you will watch it the next few weeks or whatever, I'm going to release this very word that I gave so that everybody can see it, because it's a very interesting, not concept, it's a truth actually. See, the Bible says you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. The minute that knowledge gap is filled, it sets you free. And then you go on in life and you're cool and everything's just going so well, and suddenly, poof, knowledge gap, curiosity. I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. The whole world, the most popular subject is God. The most sold book in the Bible, in the world is the Bible. Why? Because Christians get tired of their old Bible, so they get a new one? No. People want to know. They won't tell you. They'll shun you when you present Christ to them. But deep down inside, it's driving them crazy. That's how God made it. Keep it alive. That's my word to you. Keep it alive. Keep it alive. Let the mystery always be there. Let hope always be there. Listen to the way I prophesy. As I said, I'm not perfect, but listen to the way it is. There's always curiosity. What did you mean? What do you think? Go and learn for yourself. Tell them that. God's given you a word of knowledge. You fill in the sentence. He'll give it to you. The prophet will not tell you everything because, quite simply, he doesn't know. But once you receive it, the knowledge gap, you must fill it. And God will give you the answers because he knew the questions you were going to ask. Now, I'm going to play a little clip for you because I'm asking the Lord to give you a financial breakthrough. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, we've heard that and it's just impossible. It's not impossible. And I'm going to show you something that happened to me when I was praying just the other day in my garden. And now God is definitely going to do something very, very powerful. And you can join me on this fast. If my students do not have my Twitter, you're not following me on Twitter, please do. The reason I want you to do this is because I want you to hear these little words I send every now and then and be in contact. And it's very easy to do. Just go on Twitter and follow Prophet Kim. And I'll read what you write to me and how things are going. And maybe 2 months from now, you're having a difficulty with something. And maybe you can send me a question. I'll answer it from the matrix. Let's keep this relationship going. And look out for the next course that I'm going to do. In the meantime, if you haven't taken Perceptions and Revelation, then go ahead and do it. And let's keep in contact and let's go into the world realizing that God speaks this way and you are fashioned to do the same thing. And so I'm going to play this clip for you, and then when you come back, I'm going to have the girls come and join me, my singers and my prophets, and we're going to sing and worship with you. And then I'm going to ask God to give you a little song and a prophetic word from Him, and a gift, and then this word and then we're going to conclude it. But this word you're going to see in this next clip will tell you and encourage you that while we're on this 18-month fast, or if you're not fasting, you're just praying with me, which means you're going to give a little more time, this is what He wants to do. He wants to clear our debt, and He can. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Okay, watch this, and we'll be back with you now. I'm on an 18-month fast. I'm in the 3rd month, going into the 4th month, actually, of this fast. And I want you to know something, that tremendous things are happening. And sometimes I'll just go onto my Twitter and just read some of your needs, and I'll pray for them. And it's very exciting for me to see what's happening. But I'm entering into a time that I never thought I'd enter into, and it's a very, very powerful time for me. And I'm getting filled with the Spirit every single day. I go into my garden, and He's so happy, and we pray together, and we have communion together. And I sometimes I just raise my hands and say nothing. And then suddenly He just comes upon me, and it's the most beautiful thing. And I feel His presence. I want to provoke you to jealousy. I want you to do the same thing. Kim, I also work. Don't worry, I do work. I do a lot of work in the day. But 3 times a day, I stand before Him. And I pray continually, because that's what we can do as well. But I pray, and I want you to enter with me. If you haven't done yet this fast, it's so easy. All you've got to do is give up something that it brings pleasure to you, and especially with food, and then join me. And then what we want to do is we want to get together. I was thinking in September the 30th, 2011 is the first. It's the beginning of the new year, the Israeli New Year, and I want to possibly go to Mount Carmel around that time and gather all of you. You'll have time to save up money. All of you that join me on the fast and in this prayer time together, and I want us to go there and crowd Mount Carmel and have one of the biggest spiritual parties that we've ever had. We'll praise and praise and praise and worship and dance on Mount Carmel. If we can get it, I'm going to try and get it and secure it. And then, or in Jerusalem, doesn't matter. And we will make our declarations, because I believe that 18 months from now, I'm going to be debt-free. You know what happened the other day? I'll tell you a very interesting story. You guys should hear this. I didn't tell you this. When I was in my early morning prayer time, I was having such an incredible time. I said to the Lord, at the end of these 18 months, God, I would like my debt. I would be clear of debt. And I'm talking about my ministry and my own life. Now, Kim, that's impossible. Well, first of all, the Lord's been telling us that we are going to have the death of debt, which means there are all going to be debts around. But I want to be debt-free. I want to be an example of what I prophesied. And so I want, by September 30th, 2011, I would like to be debt-free. As I'm saying that to him, my phone is next to me. I'm out in the garden. I have a special garden area, which is Jacob's ladder, and I pray there, and I send it up the ladder. And as I prayed, next to me is my phone. Now, I don't do texting when I pray. Very seldom I do that, but sometimes I just see it going on, so I looked. So as I was saying, Lord, by the end of the 18th month, I would like to be debt-free. I don't know how many of you would like to join me on that. I'm sure you will. Suddenly, out of the blue, now I don't get texts from anybody, but very few see my text, my phone number, because I get too many. I get thousands of emails and so on. But a number that I don't know comes up. As I'm saying it to God, and I said, you are so cool. God, you are so, so, so cool. He does these little things we don't notice. That's a problem. We're not looking at the little things. We're looking for the heavens to open up and angels to come out. We stop doing that. He loves simple things. Have you ever seen Forrest Gump? I love Forrest Gump because it spoke of God. It spoke of how He worked. The guy's out there, not Forrest, but his friend, shaking his fist in one of the biggest storms, telling God, is that all you got? Why don't you kill me? And God doesn't. In fact, gives them the biggest catch and shows His goodness. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying, God, I'm making this declaration. I know you want many of my warriors and many of my partners and friends. And by the way, partners, I love you. Thank you for making this possible. And I'm praying for God's blessing on you. Thank you for writing me and encouraging me, especially after I gave that word regarding the president. I appreciate that very much. However, and I want to say this to you, that I want you to be debt-free. I want God to open doors for you and to make things possible for you. And many of you have given, and I want God to reward you with that. Open the door so that you can be debt-free within a day. Why not? Just one deal, and you can be free. Kim, I can't see that. You better see it, because I'm telling you something, it can happen. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? If He could give Sarah a baby at 90-something years of age, surely He can take your miserable debt and get rid of it. All it takes is some action on our part and say, God, I want to sow into this. I want to sow into being debt-free. I'm telling you a story now because, I know I went off a little bit here, but maybe it's our time just to do that in our teaching, because every teaching we have an opportunity to take advantage of a revelation that God's giving, and you can sow into that revelation. Do it today with me. I know you want to know what happened. So this thing flashes. I see, I don't recognize that number. It's nobody's name. I read it. Listen to what it says. Eliminate up to 82% of your debt today. Really, it says. Yes. I could not believe what I was reading. And I said, you did that with Bruce Almighty. And that was, great and fun. I said, you just did a Bruce Almighty on me. I was I said, so you're saying it's going to be 82% of my debt? That's good enough for me, God. And so I took that as a word. Listen, people, you cannot say those are just coincidences. Listen to me. He's got a sense of humor. He'll take our technology and have fun with it. I don't know who these people are. I have no idea. I never answered them. And that's all it says. And it's a specific number in California. I'm praying and saying, God, I want my debt free by the end of this fast. That's my request. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Pop up comes this number. Eliminate up to 80% of your debt today. Really? It says the explanation in question mark. Yes. I said, okay, if that's how you wanted to communicate with me, I'm going to take that promise. How many of you watching me right now would like to take that promise? I know you're encouraged. Don't look at your circumstance and say, it's impossible. I say what God and the angel said to Sarah and to Abraham. Is anything impossible? Is anything too hard for the Lord? Say it with me now. All of you watching me. Is anything too hard for the Lord? My debt clearance is not too hard for the Lord. I believe that revelation is coming to us right now. Okay, I thought you'd be interested in that because God gave us a promise and I want you to get the same promise. So now you're going to gather around and we're going to worship just for a few minutes. And then I want to pray over you. It is a little bit sad for us. It's the end of this course, but not the end of our relationship. Remember, we still have From the Matrix every Tuesday, and you can learn so much. You can join us for that. In fact, that little clip was from the Matrix. And so let's join our hearts together and let's thank God for His presence and what He's done for us, and the knowledge that you've been given is so important. I'm so pleased that I could have imparted this knowledge to you. You're going to take it to the ends of the earth. You'll be a representation of this prophetic voice, and I'm proud of you for doing this. So now let's gather around and worship the Lord together. Oh yes, Lord, I worship you. Every day I think about you in a special way. Sing with us now. And every day I think about you in a different way. And I smile when I think about you. I smile when I think about you. You bring me joy. Oh yes. In a very special way. Everybody lift your voice and praise Him. 'Cause He's worthy of our praise. Gives us joy. So, every day I think about you. And I love you more. Sing that, everybody. Every day I think about you. And it's you I adore. And I smile when I think about you. Yes, I do. I smile when I think about you. You bring me joy. Yes, you do, Lord. In a very special way. Lift your voice. Come on, everybody, praise Him. Filled with the joy of the Lord today. Come on, let's lift Him up. 'Cause Lord, you bring me joy. Oh, yes. And every time I think about you, I smile when I think about you. Sing out with us. I smile when I think about you. Won't you do it again? I smile. I smile when I think about you. Again. I smile when I think about you. Go. You bring me joy. Let's go. In a very special way. In a very special way. In a very special way. In a very special way, you bring me joy. I anticipate something beautiful every time I lift my voice and say your name. Every time I lift my voice and say your name. anticipate something beautiful. Say it. I anticipate something beautiful. Say it, everybody. I anticipate something beautiful. Come on, now lift your hands up. So every day I think about you in a special way. Come on, join us, students. Let's go. And every day I think about you in a different way. That's right. And I smile when I think about you. I smile when I think about you. I shout when I think about you. Praise, I praise when I think about you. Why? Because you bring me joy in a very special way. Lord, we praise you and honor you and thank you. Thank you, Lord, for life. Thank you for knowledge. We're going to gather around and we're going to worship you right now. We're going to bow our knee to him. One thing you must always remember, every one of you students, never forget to worship him. Take that time and just relax and say, God, you know, I haven't come for anything. I've come to touch you and to congratulate you and bless you and minister to you. If you want to hear the voice of the Lord on your journey to your destiny, always remember to worship him. I bow my knee to the only God. I bow my knee to the Lord. I bow my knee to eternal God. I bow my knee to the Lord. I bow my knee to the Lord. Sing it with me. I bow my knee to the Lord.
My heart is open to listen to you. My heart is open to your voice. My heart is open to listen to you. My heart is open to your voice.
My heart is open to your voice.
Yeah. My heart is open to your voice.
I stand amazed as I sense your fragrance. You know what? Aware of life beyond the veil. I take the step with anticipation. I bow my knee to you, Lord. I bow my knee to you, Lord. I raise my hands to you. I raise my hands to you, Lord.
My hands are raised in anticipation. My hands are raised to you, Lord. My hands are raised in anticipation. My hands are raised to you, Lord.
My hands are raised to you, Lord.
Oh, yeah. My hands are raised to you, Lord.
My hands are raised.
My hands are raised to you, Lord.
Oh, yes, everybody want to worship him.
Jesus.
My hands are raised to you, Lord.
Lord,
Oh,
yeah. My hands are raised to you, Lord.
everybody sing to the Lord. Lord, we worship you.
Hands are
We
raised
love you, Lord.
to you,
There's nobody else. There's nobody else. I love to worship you, Lord. Nobody else. Nobody else than I long to worship. My hands heart is open to your voice. We honor you and love you and praise you right now. We gather around this piano from all over the country, all over the world. And Lord, we praise you and honor you and thank you. We want to receive from you right now. And so, Lord, we don't want to hold back. We want to lift our hands and our hearts. You've trained all of these great people, Lord. They're no longer students, even though they will always study. But Lord, we open our heart for you to shower your blessing upon each one of us. Everyone, Lord, that has taken your word and placed it in their heart, I prescribe into their hearts, Lord, the things that they have learned in their minds and in their spirit. Today, as we enter in and we worship you, I pray, Lord, that you touch us now. Raise your hands, all of you right out there. Raise your hands. I raise my hands to you, Lord. My heart is filled with a pure sensation. My heart is filled with your grace. Raise my hands in anticipation. Raise my hands to you, Lord. Go to the marketplace and tell them who I am. Go to the marketplace and tell them who you've met. Tell them who you've seen. And say to them, come and see, come and touch the one who created you, the one who created you. Tell them who you've met. Show them the eyes that you've gazed into. You tell them the one who raised you up. Go to the marketplace and tell them who you've met, and tell them and show them the heart of the Lord. And tell them there's nobody else like me, and I will shower you with love. Go to the marketplace, all of you. And he said, tell them who I am. Tell them, show them there's a God that knows them, that they may see what you saw, hear what you heard. They may see what you've seen. Go and tell them. Show them, tell them, show them. They can come they can come. Now, that song came from the Lord just for you. And this little piece that I wrote is just for you. Not anybody else. Tell them and show them they may come to the same place that you've been. People are crying out for a future. People are afraid because they don't know what tomorrow holds. Even when, as I taught you, when Abraham stood before God and said, I don't know, things are wrong in my life. I have doubts, I have fears. And he said to the Lord, how will I know? And God waited till it was dark. Just the day was just going, the sun was just going down. And as the day became dark and night came, he fell into a sleep. And then God showed him the future. Do you know what it says? It says, and I never shared this with you in that lecture, that a deep darkness came upon Abraham as he saw the future. And I wondered about it and why he had a deep, severe darkness that came upon him. Because when you enter into the unknown, it's called a dark place. Isaiah said, I will give you the treasures of the dark places. Which means you have to get there to bring light to it. You don't know it all. Darkness speaks of not knowing it all. If you stand in a dark room, you don't know everything. You have to feel your way around, like I showed you. You know, this is a teacup. But if you were in the dark, you wouldn't be sure what it was. The minute the light comes on, the darkness is no longer there. There's light. That's what I taught you today about hope. We have a hope. Not the future in heaven, but a hope on this earth. Things can and they will change if you really believe it. Place that on the piano there, please. That's the mantle. That's the best I've got for you, to give you the riches of what I have, and that mantle is for you. And even though you're not physically feeling it, or it's not touching you physically, spiritually something is happening right now. So where you are, just raise your hands and close your eyes, just for a minute, and worship Him, and thank Him. Father, this is a very important day for me. I dreamed about this many, many, many years ago, that I would have thousands of students, and then it'll become tens of thousands all over the world as this grows, as these that you've given to me carry the message that we have a destiny. We don't see it clearly. Just like me, I prophesy in part. I don't know it all. But that which is true, when it comes, and that's a He, when He comes. I'm not talking about the second coming, when He appears to us. Suddenly we understand. I release upon you today and impart upon you the portion that is due to you. And because you have followed, like Elisha followed Elijah, and you have diligently studied, like a true servant of the Lord, I release it upon you now. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Spirit of God, omnipresent one. go to where they are right now and release them on this journey. Release them into the destiny that you've called them to right now. I can sense His Spirit right now, right upon me and upon you. And I release you with joy to go. In Jesus' name. Goodbye.